The Forbidden Hole. For many years, the Forbidden Hole floated silently in space. It was not big, it was not loud, but everyone feared it. The hole did nothing, no light, no sound, no movement. Just a black circle in the middle of a quiet sector, where nothing survived for long. Every alien race knew its name. They called it the Silent Eye. No ship ever entered it and came back. No drone survived longer than 2 minutes. The hole swallowed everything. Even data went missing. It was like the universe itself refused to speak about it. It became a warning. A place all species agreed to leave alone. Until the human arrived. His name was Jack Mason. He wore the same gray suit every day, carried an old notebook, and asked too many questions. He came alone, docking at the orbital station that circled the Forbidden Hole. The station was run by 3 alien species. They had no weapons, just sensors and scanners, always watching the dark hole from a distance. The aliens did not like Jack, not because he was rude. He was polite, too polite, but he didn't laugh. He didn't fear the hole. He studied it like it was a puzzle, not a curse. For 7 days, Jack sat in the observation room, writing in his notebook. He barely ate. He rarely slept. One other researchers tried to talk to him. He only asked one thing. Has anyone ever entered the hole? On purpose? The aliens always answered the same way: laughter, then silence. One of them, a tall blue creature with 6 arms, finally said, "We are scientists, not fools." Jack said nothing. He just looked back at the hole. On the 8th day, something changed. Jack woke up early. Earlier than the others. He walked through the silent halls of the station, passing locked doors and blinking lights. Cameras caught him moving toward the launch bay. He wore no suit, only a thin layer of armor and an oxygen mask. The control room was empty. The launch tube faced the hole directly. There was no warning, no broadcast, no farewell message. Jack stood at the edge of the launch rail. He looked at the black hole. It didn't move. It didn't pull him, but he took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and jumped. The alarm system screamed. The sirens echoed across the station. Lights turned red. Every sensor picked up the same signal: Jack's body accelerating toward the hole. By the time anyone reached the control room, it was too late. He had vanished. No trace. No signal. No wreckage. Just silence once again. The aliens panicked. One of them broke down. He went in. He really went in. No human would do this, another said. No creature would do this. But he did. The news spread fast. Within hours, the story reached 10 planets. Human enters the Forbidden Hole. Some called him mad. Others called him brave. A few believed he had died before he even touched the event horizon. But something stranger happened the next day. A HFY signal came from inside the hole. It was weak, broken, almost like static. But one word was clear: alive. The Council of Allied Species met that very hour. Leaders shouted. Some wanted to shut the station down. Others wanted to send a rescue mission. A few believed it was a trap. One of them asked, what if the hole isn't just death? What if it's something more? Back on the station, the chief scientist reviewed the last footage of Jack before his jump. He zoomed in on his face. Jack wasn't scared. He was calm, focused, as if he knew something they didn't. A technician whispered. He closed his eyes and smiled. That image haunted the station crew. No alien had ever dared test the hole. But a human did, alone, without weapons, without backup. Jack Mason was not like the others. He didn't fear the unknown. He chose it. And somewhere, far beyond that black circle in space, he was now part of something none of them understood. Something waiting, watching. The Forbidden Hole wasn't silent anymore. It had spoken, and the voice belonged to a human, asterisk the other side of fear no light. No sound, no sense of time. Jack Mason had stepped into the hole, and the universe had changed. He was no longer falling. He was suspended, floating in a place where gravity didn't follow rules, where up and down were lies, and distance had no meaning. His body was intact, his mind unsure. Around him there was something shimmering walls of space, but not like anything back home. They bent like glass under pressure, color shifting, forming patterns that looked like thoughts frozen in motion. Jack breathed. Slow. His oxygen was holding. His pulse was steady. But deep inside, something twisted. Not fear, no. He had already passed through fear. This was deeper. Like a memory that didn't belong to him pressing against his skull. Suddenly, a shape flickered. In the corner of his vision, then vanished, then returned. And this time, it stayed. It wasn't a creature, not in the way humans or aliens were. It looked like space had folded itself into a being, one made of moving shadows and pulsing light. Jack could feel its presence before it fully formed. He didn't hear words, but they reached him all the same. You are not one of them. He didn't answer. The entity came closer. They fear us. You stepped into what they ran from. Why? Jack's voice was quiet. Because someone has to. The presence hovered. Its light dimmed. Then it showed him something. Not with images, not with sounds. With feelings. Jack felt cold wind on dead planets. Screams from ships swallowed whole. Hope buried in silence. He felt millions of lives vanish. All linked to this place. This. Prism. The hole wasn't an accident. It was made. Suddenly hundreds of other shapes began forming in the distance. Some were massive. Some were barely visible. They watched Jack, but didn't move. One of them sent out a feeling like a question. Do you come to open? Or to learn? Jack said nothing. He only looked at the space around him and finally whispered, What did we lock away? A deep pressure filled the space. Like the entire dimension inhaled at once, the first being replied. Your kind calls it fear, but fear is not what lives here. What sleeps here is the truth. Jack's suit beeped. Energy levels spiked. Readings made no sense. He suddenly realized something terrifying. He hadn't stepped into the hole. He had been allowed in, and now they were watching him not as an enemy, not even as prey, but as a key. And far off, beyond the light and shifting space, something began to stir, not because Jack came to it, but because it had been waiting for him. Key alien council. Panic spread faster than light. The moment Jack Mason vanished into the Forbidden's hole, alarms echoed through the observation station. Cameras caught his jump. Footage was sent across systems. Within an hour, every allied species knew the human had done what no one else dared. No alien could understand it. Why would a human leap into death, into the unknown? There was no glory to be won, no prize, just silence. The Council of Allied Species called an emergency meeting. 12 leaders from 12 worlds, each powerful, each afraid. They gathered in a chamber above their homeworld, orbiting a dying sun. Security was high. The atmosphere was tense. The first to speak was Chancellor Revox of the Varnak Empire. His voice buzzed like broken glass. This is a declaration. Humans mock the warnings of the wise. They tempt fate. General Sarn of the Krivuk fleet slammed his claws on the table. Fools. They'll wake it. The thing inside. Elder Nori of the Lossy side. Or perhaps it never slept. They all knew the stories. The hole hadn't always been there. Centuries ago, it appeared suddenly after something had been sealed away by forgotten civilizations. But no records remained. Only the hole and the fear around it. The station near the hole sent another update. A signal faint, broken had. Come through. The words were hard to understand, but one part was clear. Don't send help. The chamber went silent. Counselor Valen of the Scholars Guild leaned forward. He's alive. No, said Revox. He's cursed. The debate grew louder. One side said to destroy the hole with every weapon they had. The other warned that even scanning it too closely could trigger chaos. Then came a third voice, quiet, calm, and human. It came from the council's guest seat. Captain Mara Lynn, of Earth's interstellar force. Our people didn't send Jack, she said. He went on his own. We didn't plan this. And yet, Revox snarled, you always do what no one expects. That is your weapon. Mara didn't flinch. Or maybe, she replied, we just do what you're too afraid to try. The council fell into stunned silence. Elsewhere, scientists tried to study the hole again. This time, something was different. The hole pulsed. Only once, but every sensor picked it up. It was like the hole had taken a breath. One analyst whispered, it knows. Ships were told to back off. Patrols increased. No one dared get close. And deep inside that endless black void, where no time moved and no star could shine, Jack Mason was still out there, alive, and being watched by something older than fear itself. Jack meets the Watchers. Jack didn't know how long he had been drifting, minutes, hours, years. Time had no shape here. His body still moved, but space around him wasn't space anymore. It was like floating through frozen thoughts and silent memories. Then they appeared, not with footsteps, not with light. One moment Jack was alone. The next he was surrounded. They didn't have faces. They weren't solid. Their forms shifted like fog trapped in mirrors. Some looked tall, like shadows of forgotten gods. Others were barely more than whispers in the air. But they were watching him. All of them. Jack felt no fear. One of them stepped or maybe glided closer. Its voice wasn't sound, but it filled his head like thunder behind a locked door. You are the first in many lifetimes. Why do you come? Jack stared at the creature. To understand what everyone else is afraid of. The Watcher didn't move, but the others behind it began to glow faintly, like they were remembering something long buried. You are not the first to ask, but you are the first to survive the asking. Without warning, Jack's mind was pulled open. Visions hit him like a storm wars across galaxies, planets breaking in silence, and a massive gate being sealed with energy so ancient it had no name. He saw a time when the whole was created not by nature, but by will. The Watchers had been guardians once, but not of life. They guarded the truth. Another voice joined the first, sharp and cold. Your kind was never meant to see beyond. Your kind moves too fast, digs too deep, burns too much. Jack took a deep breath. So you lock the truth behind fear? Yes, the voice replied. Because truth destroys what fear protects. Jack clenched his fists. Then why let me in? A long pause. Then the first Watcher replied, softer this time. Because something has changed. The lock is weakening, and we are dying. The visions changed again. Jack saw stars flickering out. He saw silence spreading through the universe, faster than light. The Watchers were not just guardians, they were prisoners too, bound to a duty that was now crumbling. What lies beyond? This place? Jack asked. The answer came like a cold wind through bone. A voice, one that called before the stars were born. It speaks again. It remembers. You. Jack's heart skipped. The Watchers began to fade, their lights dimming. One by one, they vanished into the mist. Only the first remained. You came seeking answers, but now you carry the burden. The gate has seen you. The gate has chosen. And with that, the watcher disappeared. Jack floated alone again. But now the space around him felt different. Not empty. Awake. Asterisk. Truth buried by the stars. Jack was alone but not forgotten. The space around him pulsed with awareness. Not a sound. Not a light, but a feeling, like the universe had turned its face toward him. Something deep inside this place had opened its eye, and now it was watching. He was no longer drifting. He was being drawn, pulled through invisible tunnels made of memory and time. Places that shouldn't exist. Places where the stars didn't shine, they whispered. The whispers grew stronger. Not voices, but thoughts, fragments of knowledge not meant for any living being. Images flashed through Jack's mind. Ancient machines covered in dust, halls, floating in space with doors too large for any known species, and walls etched with writing and languages long dead. He finally came to a stop. Before him stood something massive, an object shaped like a gate, but built from gravity and light. It wasn't metal. It wasn't matter. It was built from the rules of reality itself, bent into a lock. It was the truth the watchers had spoken of. This was the seal, and it was breaking. Cracks pulsed with energy. Jack felt the weight of it pressing against his mind. Behind that seal, something waited. Not a monster. Not a god. Something worse, a memory the universe tried to forget. A warning echoed in Jack's thoughts, not from the watchers, not from his own mind, but from the seal itself. The first civilizations gave everything to hide what lies beyond. They erased themselves. They chose silence. Jack's hand shook, but not from fear, from awe. Because behind that gate was not destruction. It was knowledge, dangerous knowledge. The kind that could end wars or start them, heal worlds or unmake them. Jack stepped forward. His human curiosity was stronger than caution. He reached out, and the seal responded. It didn't open, but it moved. It recognized him, as if the fabric of space remembered the feel of a human hand. Not because humans had come before, but because humans were meant to come now. The truth wasn't meant for those who feared. It was meant for those who chose to face the dark. Then the voices of the watchers returned, faint, barely there. You saw the gate. Now others will too. A pulse shot out from the seal. A signal. A ripple. Back in the galaxy, sensors exploded with alerts. Every satellite, every ship, every listening post from the cold moons of the Drek to the floating cities of Talvora felt it. Something inside the hole had awakened, and its eyes were open. Asterisk. Escape or sacrifice. The silence broke. For the first time since Jack entered the hole, the place around him began to shake, not with sound, but with a deep hum that vibrated through the bones of space itself. The gate behind him pulsed brighter now. The cracks widened. Something beyond it stirred, stretching like an ancient beast slowly waking from a 1,000-year sleep. But Jack wasn't watching the gate anymore. He had turned. A ship floated before him, old, massive, and silent, covered in strange carvings and dust that shimmered like stars. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was older than both. A remnant from the ones who had built the seal. Left behind, forgotten. The air around the ship pulled him in. His body moved without effort. The hatch opened with a sigh, not like metal, more like a tired breath. Inside, the controls responded to his presence. Lights flickered. The ship knew he didn't belong, but it let him in anyway. Jack sat in the pilot seat. His hands hovered over controls he couldn't understand, yet somehow did. The ship spoke in a voice not made of sound. It gave him one choice: escape, or complete the seal. If he left now, he could return, warn the galaxy, share what he had seen, but the seal would remain open. And whatever lay beyond would not sleep much longer. His second option? Use the ships. Core to restart the prison. It would collapse the space around the gate, seal it for another 1,000 years. But it would trap him here. Forever. The ship hummed again. Waiting. Outside, the seal began to crack faster. Energy surged. Space twisted. The watchers were gone. No one would guide him now. He remembered the words he had heard before. Fear is a prison. You broke it. Now he had a new choice: protect the universe, or return to it. His hands moved. Slow, calm. He chose the seal. The ship powered up. The engine roared, not in volume, but in reality. Space bent. Time stuttered. Light folded in on itself. Jack gave no speech. No last message. He just looked at the gate one last time and activated the collapse. From outside, the station near. The forbidden soul watched in horror. The black circle began to shrink. The stars around it stretched like rubber bands. Alarm screamed. Scientists yelled. Then everything stopped. The hole was gone. No explosion. No debris. Just silence. The forbidden soul had vanished, and so had the human. But in the quiet, something remained. A single signal. 3 words. I closed it. Asterisk. The human changed everything across the galaxy. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. One moment. The forbidden soul loomed in the sky, a wound in space itself. The next, it was gone. No warning, no explosion. Just empty coordinates where a nightmare used to be. Sensors scrambled. Ships searched. Scientists argued. But the result was the same everywhere. The hole had vanished, and so had Jack Mason. Council of Allied Species was stunned. 12 leaders sat in silence. For the first time in centuries, they had no answer. No theory. No one even dared speak the name of the thing they had feared for. Generations. Until a message arrived. It didn't come through any known channel. It bypassed encryption. It wasn't even a voice, just 3 simple words sent directly into every mainframe, every broadcast tower, every fleet. I closed it. The message was human. And it came from Jack Mason. It was impossible, yet undeniable. The hole was sealed. He had done it, alone, without orders, without help. The galaxy reeled. To the Varnic Empire, it was an insult. The humans survived it. Unsurvivable. They are not like us. To the Lassie, it was prophecy. He faced the unknowable and walked willingly. To others, it was something else, a shift. A sign that the universe wasn't what they thought it was. That fear had limits. But humans didn't. Back on Earth, Jack Mason's name echoed like a myth. Some called him reckless. Others called him brave. But most spoke of him with a quiet awe as the man who faced what a galaxy had ignored for centuries. And won. The alien station orbiting the now empty space remained in operation, but no one ever dared step near the old coordinates again. It was marked as sealed by human will. Years passed. New explorers came. They studied the void, but never crossed the line. They knew what had happened there, and deep in the minds of alien leaders, a single fear began to take root, not of black holes, not of gates, not even of the ancient powers behind the stars, but of something far more dangerous, a quiet human who closed his eyes and leapt anyway, because he believed that knowing the truth was worth the risk. And now, the galaxy would never be the same. Because fear had rules. But humans didn't follow them.